Hey everybody, today we're going to be working on Psytrance kick and bass, Darkpsy kick and bass, Hiteck, Psycore, what you name it, We're going to make it full power and we're going to do it fast and efficiently and make sure that once we get this, there will be no more kick and bass problems ever. So, for the kick, we're going to be using Kick 2. It's a fantastic plugin. I recommend that you also get on this one, right? So I drop Kick 2 into an empty MIDI track, and I will open up another MIDI track, and for the bass, we'll just use an operator for now, just as a placeholder, but we'll mostly be focusing on the kick, right? So, having our BPMs above the 200 mark, to keep it full power, we're going to open up a MIDI clip, and drop in 4 on the floor kick notes, right? So, when you open up Kick 2, you get this default kick, this nasty looking, yes, it's quite useless in our case, right? So we're gonna go through this, what Kick 2 can do and how to make it proper, right? So first thing we need to notice is this length here, right? At this BPM, this is way too much. Let's dial this back a bit, right? What's important in Kick 2 are these two like windows. We need to go into the amp and actually shorten this whole like amp section. Basically, we want the kick to occupy this area, right? And here is a bass, 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 right? Because as you can see, here is a 1.2. This is where the next kick would go. And we don't want the kick and bass to overlap, right? So what we want to do is just shorten this, play around with this just to make sure that by the time this grid starts, there is no wave going into it. Pretty much just like this, right? So once we do this, it's going to be still quite nasty, but much more shorter, much more pluckier, in our case. Okay, so let's move on. Let's get rid of this length of the click. We don't need the click at all. And now here is where we shape the actual kick, right? So this is the starting point of the kick. This is the frequency which it will start out and which will end in. These two, this one and this one, are the important ones if you want to tune your kicks to the bass, right? This area here doesn't matter so much because the kick, which is a sine wave or any other type of wave, will sweep down anyway through all these frequencies, right? In Kick 2, you can create these extra points, double clicking. You can also click and stretch, right? You should play around with these ways to do this because it drastically will alter the sound. You can generally create any type of kick in this synth, right? So having this like this, let's listen to this, right? Not so nice yet, but slowly, let's bring this here, for example, keep this sweeping down here, bring this one back. The closer it is to this side, the less plucky it is, right? Sorry, the less like this high-pitched thing is. Notice what happens if I move this, right? Here if you want a more ring at the start, and here if you want it more dimmed out. So I would probably keep these dropping quite low, Let's, for example, do something like this. Let's bring this here. Dun, dun, dun. Actually, I didn't want to get rid of this one. It really doesn't matter. Let's have this drop down to a C2, for example, and let's have this go here. Right? Let's bend this back a bit. Let's bend this one down. Well, we want to find the right sounding. Let's actually. Oh, this is okay. Let's get rid of this EQ part here. What if we bring this down also, have it start a bit, right? But this dims it up too much, right? So let's bring it back to C8. This is okay. What we could also do is create a small point here and actually drop this up from as high as possible. this gives us a nice click in the beginning, right? Something like this would do. More organic, right? No additional layers. This is nice. What if we bring this up to here, right? So here we go all the way through C3, C2, and here down into the subs. Oh, right? This would be nice. Additionally, you can then just sweep this through to find different tunings for it. Right? But for example, if we like this one, what we can do after this is go into this render area, right? And pressing generate will literally take this and put it in a wave file, which we can literally drop here. And this is basically our kick. Very easy. You don't have to record it, you just click and drag it. Very useful. Useful in the case if you want to additionally drop the kick inside a sampler or simpler, right? Can also be useful here, right? But having this, what we would then continue on to do is create a placeholder bassline just to hear what it all sounds like together, right? I would highlight all these notes, turn on the adaptive grid, and get rid of just this last part here, just to make sure that these notes don't overlap too much, right? And for the bass, of course, let's put in a saw wave, bring the filter frequency down and turn on the envelope. What's it sound like? Whoops, have to also bring down this decay. Quite nice, is a bit quiet. We can beef this up a bit by turning it into subtractive mode. Bringing in a second oscillator, right? Much more beefier, right? After this, group it, drop a utility, put it in mono, and let's start actually EQing these things, you know? Drop 2 EQs on each one. Let's bring these middle frequencies down in both. And in the bass, I would actually get rid of these subs. And in the kick as well, but probably a bit like let a few of them in. Nice. Now here, if we want to go crazy, we can drop another EQ. Additional shaping. We really don't want this area to ring out. These are the mud frequencies. But also, in the bass, this thing here tends to also cause some mud. So you can put the Q up here and a bit tone it down. Right? And this gives us a nice sounding kick and bass, you know? Now if we want to, I can tell right away that the kick is a bit more powerful than this bass. So after this we can play around with some saturators and whatnot. But in this case, I would probably dial this kick back a bit. Right? We just want it a little bit louder than the bass. And if we want to add some final touches of color to this, and if you want to stick with Ableton stock, drum bus is your friend here, right? We don't want it at 100%, maybe 50. And we also at all don't need this boom. Check it. Right? Another thing we can do actually would be playing around with some minor compression, right? You don't need too much here. Actually, don't overdo it because the kick and bass is quite stable in its dynamics, right? But if you'd like to tone it more, like precisely, let's go ahead and drop a multiband dynamics. And let's actually focus on this area. We could give it a tiny bit of compression, maybe around here, right? Just bring it back a bit, not too much. Maybe add a little bit of now makeup gain. right? So the mids, let's bring them back also, a bit less makeup gain. And if we want the highs to ring out, let's hear what this sounds like without. Right? It's a little bit more toned, you know? So you can also play around with this. Yeah, pretty much it. So that's basically it for the kick and bass for this time. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the future for more videos. Thanks and peace out.